Today, it's May 27 in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Memorial Day holiday here in the United States, and for those of you in Philippines and other parts of the world, American embassies and consulates are closed for the holiday. I'm Joe Buban. Welcome to The Pulse.
And I'm Sam Buban. Welcome to this week's edition. A dramatic bad ending for the defense at Trump's criminal trial happened Monday last week. The first criminal trial of a former president of the United States is coming to an end. Closing arguments and summations will start tomorrow, May 28th, the first day after the three-day holiday weekend. Donald Trump did not testify as his trial entered the final phase. In spite of his telling publicly in various media outlets that he wants to testify, but his legal defense team ruled against it, that according to media analysts and political pundits, would have ended in a disaster if he did. But on Monday last week, the defense called on the witness stand lawyer Robert Costello, who many legal analysts says was intended to paint a negative picture of the prosecution's witness, Michael Cohen. The plan of the Trump defense blew up in their face when Judge Juan Marcian reacted in an infuriated manner to Robert Costello's disrespectful behavior on the witness stand. According to various media reporters who were in the courtroom and wrote about the incident, Robert Costello was on direct examination by one of Trump's lawyer, Emil Bovee, and that during the questioning, the prosecutor made objections and Judge Marcian kept sustaining the objections, and Robert Costello, who is also a lawyer, uttered the word "jeez," an American expression to say Jesus, which is used commonly to express dismay or dissatisfaction or disapproval. This is how the chaos began. Lawyer Bovee asked a question on direct examination of Costello. After several objections were sustained by the judge, Costello was getting frustrated. Prosecutor, objection. Juan Marcian, sustained. Robert Costello, jeez. Juan Marcian, the judge, said, sorry, I'm sorry. Judge Marcian was infuriated. Robert Costello said, strike it, as in strike down from the court record of what he said. Then the judge allowed the questioning to continue and sustained another objection. Robert Costello made a sigh, showing frustration about the judge's ruling. After that, Judge Juan Marcian ordered the courtroom to be cleared, the jury sent to the jury room, and only the prosecutors, Trump, and his lawyers were left in the courtroom. A portion of the court's transcript, so it was made public, it reads, Judge Marcian, I wanted to discuss proper decorum in the courtroom. Costello, yes. Judge Marcian, if you don't like my ruling, you don't say geez. Do you understand? Also, you're not permitted to say strike it. I'm the only one who can say strike it. Judge Marcian also made a reference to Costello rolling his eyes on him. Judge Marcian said, are you staring down at me right now? Clear the courtroom. Officers of the court, clear the room. It took several minutes for all spectators and media people to be cleared from the courtroom. Here's what the court transcript of what Judge Marcian told Robert Costello. Judge Marcian, let the record show that it is now 5 after 4, as in 5 or 4:05. Let the record also reflect that the court officers had great difficulty clearing the courtroom because the courtroom is made up primarily of the press. And I can appreciate that the press wants to be present at every part of these proceedings. Therefore, this record is not sealed. The press will have access to this record. The fact that I had to clear the room and the officers, including the captain, had great difficulty clearing the courtroom, and that there was an argument back and forth between the press, including the counsel for the press, goes to why I had to clear the courtroom in the first place. And that is, sir, your conduct is contemptuous right now. I am putting you on notice that your conduct is contemptuous. If you try to stare me down one more time, I will remove you from the stand. The judge was looking at Trump's lawyer, Emil Bovey, and said, I will strike his entire testimony. Do you understand? Emil Bovey responded, yes, Judge, I understand. Judge Marcian, facing Costello, listen to the question and answer the question. Robert Costello, can I say something, please? Judge Marcian, no, this is not a conversation. Robert Costello's testimony was continued on Tuesday, which is the following day, and the defense rested. Trump's defense lawyers presented 2 witnesses while the prosecutors handed down 20 witnesses. Instead of intensifying Donald Trump's innocence from all his allegations, Trump's lawyers focused on attacking the credibility of Michael Cohen like a routine defense strategy. But many top lawyers around the country described Cohen's demeanor and performance on the witness stand as proper and credible, in spite of the badgering by Todd Blanche, Trump's lawyer. The hush money trial seems to be coming to a close without Donald Trump's own testimony. For those of you who had not been following the case, just as a review for you here at the Pulse. First, that this is a state of New York case, not a federal case. The case is about 32 counts of falsifying business records as a legal expense for money actually paid to porn star Stormy Daniels, who had sexual encounter with Trump, and the payment was for the purpose of suppressing the story in order not to diminish the chance of Trump of winning the 2016 election, which falls in the category of campaign finance law violation. That if the story came out before 2016 election, that many women could not have possibly voted for Trump.
An article from Political Magazine shows a constitutional fight is brewing in the Bob Menendez corruption trial. Senator Menendez's legal team is arguing that some of the disastrous evidence against him cannot be shown to jurors without violating constitutional speech or debate clause privileges. Now, prosecutors worry pending rule by Judge Sidney Stein could create a class of super citizens in Congress who are above the law, according to Political News. The federal judge in charge of this trial could soon effectively show that Menendez took bribes to help send billions of dollars of American military aid to Egypt. Prosecutors are now trying to move around some of Menendez's Senate actions because of the Constitution's speech or debate clause. It grants like a form of immunity to lawmakers that is mostly hard to get through in investigations relating to the official duties of lawmakers, their aides, or their congressional officials. I understand this may be more challenging for the government to prove its case, Menendez attorney Avi Weitzman told the judge during the argument without jurors present. We've said from the beginning that government cannot prove the case they promised. Lawmakers are already compelled to resort to assumptions in court that could soon confuse jurors. This week, a former State Department official was called to the witness stand and gave a lengthy statement about an Egyptian arms sales, but only barely mentioned Menendez due to debate restrictions. In the coming weeks, Patrick Leahy put on arms sales to Egypt that Menendez uses in an email to his now wife Nadine. But even though Leahy is a former senator, his actions are also protected by the speech or debate clause. Thus, in front of the jury, attorneys plan to refer Leahy as not Menendez or an alias.
We are going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we will talk to Geo Hughes, who is running for a seat in the Nevada Senate District 3 in the Democratic primary. Please stay with us.
Mabuhay. I am Christian Bishop, candidate for Nevada State Senate in Henderson. As a father to 3 children, family means everything to me. That's why your family means a lot to me. As a small business owner, I know what it's like to sacrifice, build, and persevere, protecting our community, investing in our future, and leading with empathy and foresight to make the right decisions for all Nevadans. In addition to being the sports, gaming, and hospitality capital of the world, let's be number one for healthcare and education. I'm Christian Bishop, and I approve this message. Salamat po.
Welcome back to The Pulse. With us now here today at our studios is a registered nurse and is a candidate for the Nevada State Senate District 3, Geo Hughes. Geo, thank you for joining us today here at The Pulse.
Well, thank you, Joe and Sam, for having me here today.
It's our pleasure.
Please tell our viewers about you and before we go into the questions.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a registered nurse. I am a practicing nurse practitioner, but always a nurse first. I work in critical care, and my specialty is cardiovascular and thoracic. So if you have a family member or a person that has cardiac surgery or needs the ICU, like we did in 2020, quite a bit of us,
Yes.
I run part of the ICU and I take care of the patients there.
Where in Las Vegas is Senate District 3? Give us some idea about, like street boundaries.
Sure. Senate District 3 is a little complicated. It goes from Ann Road at the very top, down at the bottom is DI, so that's pretty easy. Over on the east side, it is Rancho and the I-15. On the west side, this is where it gets a little complicated. It looks like a little sailboat. So Buffalo, I know, and then it comes in, and then it goes back up to Buffalo. So a little sailboat in and out.
Oh, okay. I understand you are challenging an incumbent, a fellow Democrat, State Senator Rochelle Wen. What's going on in the labor sector that you have the endorsement in some labor unions to challenge Rochelle Wen in this primary?
Well, I love that question because I get asked it a lot. As a nurse at the bedside during COVID, I was part of National Nurses United, and I was what you would call in most unions a shop steward. In NNU, or National Nurses United, we call it a representative. So when a nurse was called by management for any kind of reason, they would ask my help to help represent them or to help talk to management with them. During that time, though, one of the big things that happened was we were having some difficulty getting masks and getting what's called the personal protective equipment. I'm sure you heard of PPE, right?
PPE, yes.
Sure. So in our hospital, it wasn't any different. We were having a lot of difficulty, and so we had to stand up and fight for our rights for protection.
Yes.
And during that fight, I did help with some nurses, get everybody organized. Eventually, the managers decided that it was okay to give us the masks, the nurses, but not to the people who worked in the kitchens, not to the people who cleaned, not to the people who pushed our patients, all of our team members. So I helped with a couple of nurses to get everybody together and organize basically informational picket. We called out to all the unions.
Yes,
we called out to
did.
culinary, to IBW, to the teachers, to fire, you name it, we called everybody. And we got everybody to come out and let the community know that we were being treated unfairly. And so at that point, our hospital responded and gave everybody the masks. So, that took, some of the labor folks took notice. And so fast forward to last legislative session when, unfortunately, the incumbent, she pushed a couple of bills that were anti-labor, one of them being a guest room, daily room cleaning repeal, part of a bill. And basically what that did is that forced 17,600 approximately, almost all women of color, that work as guest room attendants. Those are the cleaning ladies on the strip. They're some of the hardest working people. It is what our hotel's backbone is based on. So that had a potential of cutting 30% of that workforce. That's horrible. Absolutely horrible. It's deplorable, actually. Fortunately, Culinary Union is very strong, and in their contract, they were able to win that repeal back But there's a lot of women, a lot of people that are not covered by different unions, and
Yes.
all those folks are still having to do what's called checkouts. That's the hardest part. That's just when people check in and out of the rooms,
Yes.
but not the upkeep. So we're asking them to do much more with less people, and you have to ask yourself, who gains? Okay, who gains from that? The hotels gained
Yes, yes.
multiple million to billion dollars in profits, right?
I could imagine.
But we're hurting women of our community. Second part is there was another bill that was sponsored by our incumbent, and that was a bill where the Teamsters normally do deliveries of the beer and different things.
Yes.
For our local breweries, this bill that was sponsored by the incumbent, it was to circumvent the Teamsters and allow delivery by other than Teamsters. So that is why I have culinary, all three Teamsters, NSCA, which is the educators. I also have, of course, my own union, National Nurses
Yes.
United, United Food Workers, UFCW, which is grocery stores and cannabis stores. You know, they're backing me up, because if you're going to look for a labor candidate or somebody that represents our community,
Yes.
it's not going to be somebody who sides with corporations. It's going to be somebody who protects the community, like I did during 2020.
So, Joe?
So you work as an intensive care nurse. How's it going for you in the campaign trail?
So right now, I work with the cardiovascular and thoracic team, which is in the intensive care.
Okay.
I'm very fortunate to have a great team, and I've been able to move my hours. I work really, really early to be here today. I had to be there about 4:45, 5 o'clock. I had to start looking at my patients, and I do go back. But really, by the time the end of my workday ends, I'm able to canvass every day. I canvass after work, and then on my days off, I do canvass as well. And I meet or knock on about 30 to 50 doors when I work, and when I don't work, you better believe I'm hitting over 100.
I really appreciate, you know, what you're doing, and even coming here to the studio today. If you win in the primary and win in the general election, and given a choice of committee assignment for you, what would be your top choice of what committee you want to sit on?
So if I had an absolute any choice, Sam, oh my
Yes.
gosh, of course. I mean, I'm here for nurses, right?
Yes.
What more nursing, you know, what more advocate could there be as far as nursing is concerned than the nurse herself? And I know how difficult it is to work in without ratio. So Health and Human Services,
Yes.
absolutely. And I would very much so love to sponsor a bill for ratios. Not only will it protect nurses, but it will protect our community. There are studies out there that absolutely show that if you have a good ratio, that's the appropriate number of patients to nurse, that there is less of a mortality. People do better. People get treated better. Imagine your grandmother
Yes.
having to wait, or your mother having to wait 2 hours for water because the nurse has 8 patients.
I
It's
see.
just unconscionable, right?
Well,
So
that's-
we want to protect the community.
Absolutely, that's a good thing to, you know.
It's good to know.
To think about, you know.
So, Geo, what would you like to say to your voters out there? So this is your pitch.
Sure. Well, to the voters out there, you know, I came to this country. I had to learn how to speak English. My mom worked 2 jobs, and we delivered newspapers together when I was 9 years old. What that means to you and what that means to the community is that I know how to work hard, but I also know how hard people work. Once my mother got her union job, my life changed. My brother's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. I'm a nurse
Wow.
practitioner. My sister got a degree in social work, and she works in the labor movement. So we've all been taught to serve by my mother, who has served her community for over 30 years. Not only does she work as a guest room attendant, which is why this fight is so personal to me, but she protected guest room attendants and every person on the strip, and she fought very hard for health care, for lowering the prices of healthcare and drugs, as the culinary is known for. So I am very, very excited to join the fight, to be up there, to be able to represent. There's no nurse up there in legislation. We're making all these healthcare
You'll
decisions.
be the first then.
Yes. So
Okay.
I think I'm very, very excited to get up there and be the next senator of Senate District 3.
Oh, well said. Yeah. Geo Hughes, candidate for State Senate District 3. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today here at the polls. Good luck on your race.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We will take a commercial break. Please stay tuned for our conversation with Hunter Cain, who is running for a seat in the County Commission District C. In some states, they are equivalent to county supervisors.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to The Pulse. With us now at FilAmTV Studios is Hunter Cain. He is running for a seat in the Clark County Commission. Hunter Cain, thank you for joining us here at The Pulse.
Thank you very much for having me.
Why don't we start by telling our viewers about yourself?
So absolutely, my name is Hunter Alexander Cain. I'm running for the Clark County Commission here in District C. When you think of District C, think of the northwest part of the valley. So that is Summerlin North, that's Centennial Hills, Lone Mountain. It goes all the way up to Indian Springs and Mount Charleston too, all the way to kind of the Pahrump border right over there.
Oh, okay.
What I love to tell people is, I'm first and foremost a proud foster parent. So I've brought in 36 young men into my home over the past 8 years. In 2018, I've adopted my first son, James, and then ever since that time, I've now had 11 other kids that are now permanently mine.
Russ Miller is not running for re-election for the County Commission District C. That means that this is an open seat
Yes.
for the November general election. How many are competing for that seat in the Democratic Party primary?
Yes, so I'll actually be running against Shannon Bilber Axelrod, so it's just going to be the two of us in the primary. My focus is 100% on community service.
Yes.
So I'm not 100% sure what she's doing in the community, but I can tell you I've started the Foster Care Chamber of Commerce to help those. We actually have a lot of different veterans organizations that are very supportive of me.
You might have touched up on this already, but what programs or issues are you interested in working on if you become a county commissioner?
Yeah, so the county commissioner, they have a broad range. I always say that everything goes through the county. So there is a broad range of things from the RTC and transportation to the waterways to your utilities and all that. However, there are some overlooked issues also. So nobody can say here in Clark County that the primary family services is doing a good job. There's a few different things I would like to go in there to not only help get more foster homes, but also help those youth that are aging out of foster care system. And at the same time, I'm a military veteran. I've served in the Army for 10 years.
Wow.
And Clark County is the only level of government that has no veteran services.
Oh,
So I would
didn't know
love
that,
to create,
yeah.
I would love to create the inaugural Veterans Service Department where we can do a few different things where we fill in those gaps for those some of those homeless veterans, those that need housing, employment, all those different type of things. So that's another big passion of mine. And then education.
Yes.
CCSD is not directly controlled by the county. That's actually controlled by both the school board and by our state legislatures. However, if the saying is true that it takes a village to raise a child,
Yes.
then I think the county needs to do its part too. And where I would love to see is see what kind of supportive services we can do for early childhood education, so those going into high school, and then what I also love to call early adulthood education.
Well,
school
you
system.
certainly have the heart for community and public service.
Absolutely.
Joe?
So how's it going for you in the campaign, and are you getting a lot of endorsement?
Yes, it is going very, very well. Very, very tiring. Right now, we are about 18 days out from the primary. We are out fundraising our competitors. We are out endorsing our competitors. We are, of course, doing more in the community. Just recently, we had an AAPI Youth Voice Matters event that went very, very well out there. When it comes specifically to endorsements, we do have quite a few national ones from Democrats Serve and Common Good and stuff like that. We have state ones from great organizations like Silver State Equality and others. And then the amount of local endorsements is, I think, what's very, very impressive to me, is that there's a lot of key leaders of different organizations all around the Valley who are coming out and supporting one person, and that's Hunter Cain.
That's fantastic. Good for you. We're nearing the end of our show. What would you like to say to our voters? This is your pitch.
This is my pitch. Okay. Well, what I would tell you is, my entire life has been a life of service. So rather it's, when 9/11 happened in 2001, I was one of those people a month later that joined the U.S. Army and was shipping off to basic training the next month. I became a National Guardsman. I turned around and helped out in any way I could. I worked for Congresswoman Dina Titus for the better part of half a decade. From her office, I was able to do more outreach and more provide more resources and services to our community. So, I'm one of those people that have consistently been engaged one way or the other in our community. So voting for me, June 11th, you can do it a few different ways, of course, online, but you can always follow me on Elect Hunter Cain on all social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, you can find me on there, and we're going to be making history together. So I hope you vote for me on June 11th.
Well said, Hunter Cain, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today at The Pulse.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me here today.
And to our viewers, join us again next week for another edition of The Pulse. Thank you for watching. I'm Sam Buban.
And I'm Joe Buban. God bless your week.